Hi everyone, this is Faith Jones from Fresh Lemons Quilts, and today we're going to talk about trimming a couple of the units that you're going to be creating in the Week 13 Summer Sampler 2020 block Glimpse. The first unit we're going to trim is the edges of the center unit, and this is on page 5. And there are 3 important markings you want to look at your ruler when you're trimming this unit. We have our 2 quarter square triangles sewn together. The first thing you want to look at is you have your quilting ruler, and it has this diagonal line in it. The diagonal line needs to be placed on your center seam here. The next 2 markings that you need to pay attention to are going to be where the ruler touches the edge of your unit. And those need to touch the edge at 3 7/8 of an inch. Now I always get a little nervous when I have to cut things or mark things at the 7/8 or 3/8 or something 1/8 of an inch. But really it's just another line on your ruler, so it's not that big of a deal. So you want to mark those up. You have one here, 3 7/8 lined up here. You have 3 7/8 lined up here, and on the pattern, those are the markings that are circled in red. And then we also have, you want to keep this line on the seam, the diagonal line on the seam. So I'm kind of working around my tripod here, so bear with me. So we're going to cut there. I'm going to move around here, so I'm going to cut here. So now we have our trimmed unit for sewing around the center of the block. The next unit we are going to trim is everyone's favorite, the split quarter square triangle. This gave people a little trouble on a previous block, so we're doing a video. So this is what it looks like all sewn together. You can see these were my 2 quarter square triangle units. This was my half square triangle unit. When I sewed these together, I kind of centered the half square triangle unit on the quarter square triangle units so that, see if you can see, so it lines up, centered. Pressed it open. You can follow the pressing tip to get that lined up properly. Now on this one, once again, we just have to make sure that we line a few things up on the ruler to trim this properly. Once again, this diagonal marking on the ruler is going to go on this seam between the 2 quarter square triangle units. Always needs to be there. The next thing we need to line up are the red circles in the pattern, and that is the 3.5 inch markings on the opposite seam. So remember, we have the 45 inch line here. Then on this intersection of fabric and this intersection of fabric, we want that to be the 3.5 inch marking on the ruler. So just kind of move it around. So you can see 3.5 inch here is on the seam, and 3.5 inch here is on the seam. Now that should be enough to get your ruler in the right spot as long as your diagonal is still on this seam. But if you want a 3rd, or a 4th, I guess, marking spot, the 1 inch and 3/4 inch marking is at the intersection of all the seams here. So that is represented in the pattern by the blue circle. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 checks before you trim. 3.5, 3.5, 45 degree, and the 1 3/4 inch dot there. So we're going to trim these 2 sides first. Again, I'm working around my tripod, so not the smoothest trimming. You get the picture. Sorry. Okay. So now you have something that looks like this. Now we're going to go to the trim the second side. By turning it. Sorry. I think we're leaving it like this. Turning the ruler. We're going to do the same thing here. We are going to line up the diagonal on the seam. We are going to line up the 3.5 inch markings here and here, here, and up here. And because you've already trimmed 2 of the sides, this actually is also 3.5 inches. So 3.5, 3.5. Those are represented on your pattern by the red circles. 1 3/4 inch in the middle. And your diagonal line on the ruler is on the line between the quarter square triangles. So let me get this lined up. Again, bear with me as I work around my tripod. Oops. Shifted a bit there. Won't be perfect. Okay, and you have your trimmed split quarter square triangle.